But that leads us to bind.
Oof, I
Okay,
love a
that leads us
bind.
to bind. Okay, bind occurs absolutely everywhere. Bind for me is the eternal trap.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about a CEO hostile takeover,
Hmm.
where the CEO was just busy doing their job and not paying attention to the fact that a series of organizations were buying up the controlling shares or stock of the company, or there was an injunction filed or something that was occurring outside of their purview that was leading to a place where the noose was slowly beginning to wrap itself around the CEO's neck, and then suddenly one day an individual walks in from the board of directors and places a folder down on his desk and says, "So you've got two choices here. Okay, we control the company now. We control the controlling shares, and so you've really got two choices. You either take the severance that we're offering you and you resign willingly and tell the story we want you to tell, and you can move on with love and grace and prosperity and abundance and good luck and best of luck to you, or you can fight us, and here's how this is going to go down." And so by the time the CEO even realizes what's occurred, he or she is in a bind. They don't their choices are now limited. And that can happen by like life, by individuals who have come to do this to you, or literally by the universe.
Yeah.
And you've waited too long. Maybe you haven't made a choice. Maybe you didn't seek to adapt to a situation fast enough, and then you find yourself in a predicament where your choices are now limited. And we bind ourselves all the time. This is actually, for me, the very nature of self-discipline. That we as individuals are saying, I'm actually going to prevent myself from seeing all other choices and options that are available to me, because the only choice I want to see that's available for me is the one that I need to do in order to get the result that I desire. So it's binding oneself for the benefit of the individual. It's like I'm not going to eat. In fact, I'm going to take all sugary foods out of the house so that I do not have the ability to eat that sweet at 10 o'clock or 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, because then I don't have that option. And so that's a self-inflicted, so to speak, bind. And that actually can be very beneficial
Yeah.
to our lives. And so there is a positive to that,
Yeah.
alongside obviously the negatives that we see. And of course, it comes up in our verbiage and our vernacular in life and in society when we say, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. That's literally a bind.
Yeah.
And for me, binds are the most insidious. They're
Oh,
one of the most insidious approaches, because we don't even know when we're doing it to ourselves and trapping ourselves inside of something. And oftentimes it begins to limit us because we can't see how creative we're capable of being in any given moment, and what options are and choices are available to us.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's arguably the one that's tied the most directly to your emotions and therefore your inability
Mm,
to think. Like for
mm,
anyone listening, have you ever been stuck in a bad relationship? Whatever the kind of relationship was, whether it was whether it was a client, whether it was a working relationship, a loving relationship, whatever it is. If you've ever been stuck in a bad relationship, technically speaking, if you look at the logic of the scenario, you're not stuck, right? You can dissolve any relationship if you so choose. As a technical aspect, your emotions say you can't do X because of Y and Z, right? That is a bind. That is a bind in those situations. If you've ever gone to a store and your favorite product is on buy one get one free, that's a bind. You're looking at need. Oh well, I'll take one more. It's especially painful if it is a sweet that you like. I can get one for free. Oh my god! Therefore, your need for diet and exercise depletes because the bind of saving money takes a source a priority in those particular situations. Right? Again, there are positive and negative affectations to it. It can still be insidious because it's connected towards our emotions. But I use binds a lot in practicals of the coaching situation, as in the situation that I lay before somebody. They will either complete or reveal that they haven't done the pre work. That
Mm.
those are the only options in that particular situation. In which case, for me as the coach, I'm better suited to tend to their needs by default from getting at the information that they didn't want me to know. But the binds have this kind of positive affect. Well, put my teeth in. Affectation about it. Uh, God, it's much like a pen. It can be used to write the most glorious poetry, but it can also be used to attack people given the circumstance. A bind is driven by the individual that's using it. The turning point is the knowledge, the foresight that the individual brings towards the use of the bind. If you are aware of all moving parts, one could make the inductively reasoned observation that this is the driver of the bind. But if it is that you aren't aware of all of the moving parts, you are in a bind. So
Mm.
those types of questions are a start, not necessarily the start. They are a start of deconstructing the bind in order to make effective change. Right?
Mm.
Oh, that was a long sentence.
I can't wait. I can't wait for us to get even deeper into each one of these one by
Come
one
on.
and start talking about the criteria of what actually creates them and what
Mm.
needs they meet and what needs they don't
Mm.
meet. But
100.
of course, that's for a later episode.
We are one episode, 12 massive areas of psychological practice, sociological practice, neuroscientific practice, behavior, and
Yeah.
whether we were two people or 2002 people, there is only so much we can do in one episode. So we give you all 12 to spark awareness throughout your activities and your day-to-day moments, but you're going to have to keep coming back in order to learn the specific deconstructive elements of which approach, which in essence is a bind. Right? It is a bind. That's the kind of positive affectation of it.
Yeah. Let's get to merge.
Oh, let's get to merge. Let's do it.
Okay, merge for me is the very definition of bringing two things together from a you and I into a we. So combining two things into one thing, or the
Mm,
joining
mm,
of something, the merging of it, so that the individual or individuation of any one thing gets gray. It's very difficult to identify where the you and the I disappear or appear.
yeah.
Yeah, whether that's separation or the combination of bringing things together. So for me, the true definition of love, of bond, of connection, of deep meaning, of marriage is union. It's the you and I are no longer just a you and I, we are a we. And that is a merging. Okay? And the place I discovered this was really, and I know this is going to sound strange, was a virus or a parasite.
Yeah.
The parasite doesn't befriend the individual. It doesn't bind the individual. It actually joins the individual, and the individual doesn't even know that it's being joined with. And so it appears as if it's a part of that individual already, like a virus appears as a cell, as a regular cell inside of the body. And then as it joins with the host, so to speak, it begins to spread its DNA, so to speak. The aspects and qualities of its character
No.
to the whole in a way that appears like a blend,
Mm,
except it's not.
no.
It's an actual joining. You can see it. It's
Yeah.
not invisible. You just have to notice it.
Mm, mm.
And that's about paying attention in a very specific type of way. So I'm
100%.
wondering what your thoughts are about merging, because for me, this speaks of things like Aikido.
Oh,
Aikido is a merging with an attack to
yeah.
redirect its energy, or to move it in a different way.
Completely. Like the most basic separation between a blend and a merge that I've come across is a blend doesn't necessarily have direction, but a merge does.
Mm.
When you're in a loving relationship, you know where you're going. When you're in an Aikido sparring session, you know where you're going. right? When you're working together in a team at work, there is a direction that you want to go, and the merge is born out of that requirement. Like if you don't want to think of it as a virus, think of it as pregnancy. That is a merge of a specific. I mean, we're not going to go too far into the gory details, but that is a merging of one specific group of cells with another in a specific situation. So that's the key point, right? Merging, because of its direction, has a degree of the virtue of maybe certitude, maybe discernment in those particular situations. There is that awareness. Blend doesn't necessarily have it. It is just the default dissolving, right, into those particular moments. So we could look
Well,
at. I was just going to bring us back to
yeah.
the sniper role. We could look at, right, the difference between the merge and the blend in that scenario is the merge has the direction to the situation, then the blending happens.
Mm.
Right, those are the points. Movement is about the direction. If it was just moving aimlessly, I mean, one, they'd be a pretty bad sniper, but but two, it is born of blend in that particular situation, right?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this in the future when we get into the criteria of what some of the polarities that occur as a result of these different approaches, these different adaptation strategies. And for me, it's the difference between being passive and being active.
Oh yeah.
For me, merging is it's an active choice. It's an intentional directive. Like you said, it's a directional and deliberate, purposeful intent to unify,
Mm,
which is the virtue of unity.
mm,
Versus blending feels more passive.
mm,
It's like I'm here, I'm not choosing intentionally to influence the moment in any specific way, but I'm kind of apart from while being a part of, versus I'm actually choosing to step in a meaningful way, join with this thing, and then allow my more active intent to be present in a way of influencing the moment. And that's where it feels like a lot of politics has more of a, hey, I'm trying to merge with this group in order to allow my voice or allow my intent to be more active in the environment so that we can engage in a specific kind of action together, whatever that may be.
100%.
And so, yes. And so let's go to the next one, which is flow.
Yes, sir.
Flow is different than merge for me
Yeah.
in a big way
100%.
because flow for me is about looking for the negative space and moving with it, as opposed to saying trying to influence or interact with the moment and not being apart from the moment.
Mm,
It's saying, where can I go with what's occurring in order to literally go with the flow?
yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Very similar. Very similar. The easiest analogy that I can describe is imagine an accident where you are about to fall into a river, right? That is moving in a particular direction. The action of you falling is a merge, right? Then you could choose to continue swimming with the current, still merging towards the directed end, or you could just flow along with it. You could just flow along with the current of where exactly the problem's going. So in terms of an everyday situation, if you imagine somebody in a stressful role, whatever that would be, it would be particular from industry to industry, and they have to deal with multiple people running multiple projects, doing multiple things, talking to multiple people, and all of these other elements keep walking into their office. Ben, we need this. Okay, cool. Put it over there. I'll do it in a second. Ben, we need this. Yeah, I've got it. Cool. I'm working on that email now. Ben, we do that. Right. This is the nature of flowing. Right, and the partial destructive element that comes along with it. If you are defaulting towards this grand acceptance of data the whole time, you're going to wind up with something that you're going to struggle to deal with, right? Because in those moments, if you're just diverting all of the going with the flow towards the safe space requirements that is happening, you're going to wind up with a laundry list of things that you have to go through that's going to stress you out even more. So the flow comes with a requirement for barriers, for the knowledge of limits. Because if we go back to the river analogy, who's to say that the river doesn't flow to a waterfall?
Yeah.
Right? Who's to say that? And this is the elements of flow that I want you to think about. In the moment, it might feel easiest option. I'm going with it. I'm in the zone. I'm in the moment. But too much of a flow, as with any of the approaches, too much of one, an adherence to one, an addiction to one, if you will, is where the damage comes in.
Yeah. And I see it occur a lot.
Yeah.
I see it occur a lot. You go with the flow too long, and then you end up in a situation where you're like, how did I end up here? Well, it's you passively just went with it. You went
Yeah.
with it for a really long time. You weren't blending. You weren't invisible. But you were a part of the moment, but you went with whatever was going on to your own detriment, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
But also there are certain moments when going with the flow is absolutely what's needed.
100%.
It's like, you know what? I'm gonna be with this and be present
Yeah.
with this and see where this is gonna go because I don't know necessarily what the right direction is with any of this. And
Mm.
so I'm going to stay with it and be present with it and join it, but flow with it, not
Yeah.
merge with it because I'm not imposing my intention or in a deliberate way on the moment.
Mm.
I'm just playing my role,
Yeah.
so to speak, and
Yeah.
finding my spot,
Yeah.
finding my place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that leads us to the next approach, which is distract. The magician's greatest tool, okay, is guiding attention,
Yeah.
guiding attention, which for me is once again very different than blend because
Oh,
blend is
gotcha.
is literally not taking any attention versus I am going to say something, do something in this moment to take the attention of the moment in a different direction, point it somewhere
Mm.
where I can, so then in the invisible space, in the negative space, I can execute something on my own.
Yeah.
Okay, like this is the child that taps on his sister's shoulder and points at something so that he can steal a French fry off her plate. This occurs all the time. And in
Yeah.
fact, parents do this. I've seen parents do this quite often. A child wants mom's attention or dad's attention, and they go, "Here, look, take your iPad." Okay, or
Yeah.
watch this TV show, or
Yeah.
play with this toy, or do something is the utilization of distraction in order to help the child affect their emotionality and maybe begin to self-regulate
Mm.
versus where they were headed in that moment and what could have become the circumstance or the impact or the consequence of that moment if that current trajectory or path had been followed.
100%. 100%. Love it. I mean, the other side of this, and it's particularly popular in short form media content, like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube shorts, that type of thing. You see people go into debates, which, let's call them what they are. It's just arguing. Nothing ever happens. It's still the same art of, speaking from England, because I don't see American television. I live in England. So speaking from seeing the Prime Minister's Question Time, it is maybe more upper class verbiage around arguing because nothing ever happens. It is distracting through whataboutism. Right? If you're in these particular circumstances where a question or a discussion or a topic or something is put on the table that addresses a particular pain point of someone, and they go, yeah, but what about, that's distracting action. Now, I can't tell you the reason why. It would need to be a fastidious look at the situation, but that is an attempt to distract as either a way to keep somebody focused on one particular area because that's the area they want to deconstruct, or they have no substance to the particular argument in that particular discussion. Right? There's nuance in that area, of course there is, as there is with all things. But it's a particular conversational thing that happens time and time and time again. A default mechanism is to go, yeah, well, what about whatever it is? You know,
Straw man fallacy.
it's the straw man fallacy. It's the straw man fallacy. If you see it a lot in spousal arguments, yeah, you haven't. I don't know what's a household that you haven't done the ironing this week. Yeah, but I did the dishes earlier. Okay, that doesn't talk about the ironing. Well,
Good point.
great
Good
point.
point. I do
Well,
appreciate that. Thank you so much. But what about the irony? Yeah, yeah.
exactly. These
Totally.
are flawed attempts to distract, but I mention them because of their commonality, right? Commonality in terms of default elements when you're using them yourself, and when other people or other groups are using them with you, on you, for you, by you, right?
Yeah, and your ability to maintain focus and be able to draw the conversation back to the thing while being kind
Mm,
and saying, "Hey, you're not wrong. I
mm,
really do appreciate the fact that you did take the trash out. That's
mm,
beautiful.
mm.
Hey, and I honor you for that. Thank you. Can we also talk about the fact that the ironing it didn't get done? So
Yeah.
would it be okay if we just stayed on that and had that conversation if that's okay with you? You know, there's ways
Mm,
of interacting in that conversation that keep people focused and allow the distraction to not be used as an approach to adapt, because ultimately if the result was for the ironing to get done, it didn't get done. And so distract or not, the ironing has to get done. And
exactly.
so and so once again, focus on results. Focus on the results, which of course we're going to get into. But the final approach that you and I have spent so much time talking about is, for me, shapeshift, and we mentioned it earlier.
We
But
did.
shape shifting is the transformation or change or adaptation of moving from one form
Yeah.
to another form.
Yeah.
And you can see this, in crime heist movies where the criminal, is attempting to escape from the bank that they just robbed by dressing up as a police officer. Or you can see it as a puffer fish that appears to be a very, very small, seemingly weak and insignificant little thing until it blows up and becomes this, much bigger fish with spines and pokies. And, we can look at a porcupine and how it looks like it's completely docile and fragile until it pulls its spines up and suddenly it's got weapons that it can use to defend itself. Whatever it is, the ability in the animal kingdom, both in our own human animal and the animals around us in nature, the ability to shapeshift is the very nature of the grounded fundamental of evolution.
Mm.
Anytime we grow as a being, we are shapeshifting. And this can be rather challenging in certain relationships when people begin to believe that we are supposed to be the same person all day, every day for the totality of our lives, and then we grow,
Yeah.
and we need to reconnect with an individual who has gone through some sort of metamorphosis in their lives and has become a different version of them.
Mm.
That is for us fundamentally a shapeshift. And an individual who was your colleague and was on the same level as you got a promotion and now they're your manager and they went through a shapeshift. And now suddenly it's like, wait a minute, what is the befriend pattern look like? What does our befriend adaptation look like now that they have a different position within the organization?
100%. I mean, like an easy way to get your head for you listening, an easy way to get your head around one of the differences, but one of the main differences between a blend and a shapeshift is time. It's like what's the difference between camouflage and a disguise? It's the permanence of its use. So if you've ever been in a moment where you've said, I had no idea about them. I mean, we see it more often than not in celebrities, but in your personal lives. Oh my God, I had no idea this person would cheat on their spouse, or I had no idea this person had a gambling problem, a drug problem, whatever it is. These are daily occurrences of a shapeshift. It is a composite part of the individual's actions and how it adds up to a misinterpretation, right? The danger is the kind of misappropriation of a shapeshift, as in the belief that somebody has shape shifted when that's just the presentation of them. Right, there is a misunderstanding of the mask or the disguise in that moment. There was a really good book I read on this angle years ago. It's called "Naked is the Best Disguise," and it's not a point of social dynamics. If you're going to a restaurant in the nude, you're not going to be let in. But it is the point that disguise starts with your behaviour, not necessarily the adornments that you put on. So if somebody is trying to convey that they are this most wonderful, amiable, universalist individual, that will be specifically connected to their behavior and not just the websites they visit or the projects they facilitate, right? In the same sense that if it is that you are about to work an investigation of any kind, right? You're whether you're looking at the peace model or effective investigative interviewing from Eric Shepard or beyond, and anything in between, right? If you've been in those situations where you've said things like, "No, I know this has happened. I just need to understand how you ended up at this place." Right? In that moment, I mean, it's a shapeshift and a bind in one, but you're trying to put forward the impression of somebody that knows. So you have to match words to action in that particular circumstance in order to facilitate the bind on the individual. It's a sequence. It's a shapeshift as a required requirement of a bind. But if you pick any celebrity that's been in trouble, where you've gone, I had no idea. Look at P Diddy, right?
Mm,
His fall from grace has been huge,
mm,
huge. Go back to the
mm,
early '90s. This this pop star or R&B or what, I don't know what the name of his genre of music is, but the information that we have now, you go, God. Or you see it on these kind of true crime documentaries. Where, it's always the quiet ones, isn't it? Shapeshifting in action, right there, the whole time. So watch for authenticity. Watch for repeated patterns. Not that, a universalist individual can't display some kind of anger or hostility towards a particular group. They are humans, after all. But what do they do when they come down? What is the primary incitation of the stress versus the secondary after the fact? What happens in those moments? If it continues throughout, you may be not looking at a shapeshift. But if there is
mm.
some kind of peek behind the curtain, some kind of macro change that occurs, maybe there are questions to ask in that particular dynamic. But that, ladies and gents, and any domesticated animals around the earth that are listening as well, is our full stable of the approaches that we use in order to understand the way humans either acquire their needs or do their best attempt to survive a stressful situation. One of the key things I'd like to leave you with, other than the gargantuan detail that you've had, is we can understand that an individual has an approach to stress, but I would encourage you to think of it more of a role requiring stress, because a father will do it differently to the individual that when they work. A company might navigate stress, the role of the company. A particular parliamentary debate might happen. A country might do it. There are these changes to the personal navigation of stressful circumstances, which are particular to the roles that are connected in that moment. It's not just the individuals. They're a massive part because they fulfill the roles. But don't forget that part as well. How about you, sir?
Um, I think we're going to get into this much deeper in a future podcast, because we have so much to unpack inside of all of this. But the big thing that I want everybody to walk away with right now is just to start picking two or three people that are closest to you in your life, and ask yourself, which of these approaches do they fall into most when it comes to the stressful situations that you have found yourself in with them. Okay, when they come home from work and they start sharing with you how they responded to something that happened with the boss, what are you noticing in them? Because the more you understand which approach, which adaptation strategy they use, the more you can actually adapt yourself to help support them in whatever way is the way that you have designed your relationship and connection to them. And so to make this easier to use, just start with the people that are closest to you in order to understand them better, and really to learn to interact with them in such a way as to help support them with either tactically evolving more of their abilities to meet the moment by starting with you being the example of how you can tactically evolve yourself. And that really is the best place to begin.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, with that in mind, folks, if you've gotten anything out of this other than maybe numb bum from being sat too long listening to us waffle on for as long as it is, there's one thing left to do, which is to click subscribe on whatever platform that it is that you're on, so you can make sure that you stay updated with the evolution of our discussion around the tactical use of all of these approaches and how they can benefit you and those around you. So with that in mind, we're going to love you and leave you, and we will see you next time. All right, guys, take it easy. Bye-bye.